Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Triple Threat Show. I am your host, Jeremy Lapidus. Today is a spooky Tuesday, October 28th. It's Halloween, guys. We have a lot to get into. Another wild weekend in football. We see the playoff picture starting to get clearer and clearer. Massive movement in the head coaching ranks of college football as Brian Kelly no longer the coach of the LSU Tigers. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about the job openings. We'll talk about who is a playoff favorite in both the NFL and college football when we get into our questions, our takeaways from a wacky weekend of football. We'll also get into our top 25, the power rankings or the top 25 teams in the nation to go over, as again, we're a little more than halfway through the college football season as we do the TTS top 25 every single Tuesday. We'll talk World Series. We'll talk basketball. The NBA underway about a week in, actually literally 1 week in today. We'll talk about everything that's going on the court and off the court around the NBA, and we'll talk about the big fight from this weekend. So make sure you strap in. Make sure you're here for all of that. You can find us everywhere. You can find us on YouTube at Triple Threat Show. You can find us on Instagram at 3threatshow _ Twitch at 3threatshow, and on TikTok at _Triple Threat Show. To help me navigate all of the wild news from the world of sports today, my friend and co-host Mehrob Fatemi is here to help us out. How you doing on a fine morning here, Mehrob?
Doing pretty well, Jeremy. A little brisk morning up here in Massachusetts, but we're doing well. We're doing well, best we can.
They're starting to get a little cold. We had to put like liners over our windows earlier. I felt like I was setting up for like a murder scene. It was kind of a little bit sketchy things going on in the Richmond house down here. But anything to stay warm, we had a marathon of a baseball game, but we'll get into that later. Let's start off with football, because football is king. Football is number one. Let's start off on the Saturday side of things with college football, Mehrob. A lot of big takeaways from it. Maybe the biggest one, and the one that I wrote down immediately after the game: is it time for Brian Kelly to go? The answer to that question clearly was yes. Brian Kelly no longer the head coach for the LSU Tigers. His tenure ends really with a whimper, and a lot of bad stories coming out about him. He, of course, left Notre Dame in the middle of recruiting a kid to Notre Dame to go to LSU, and it just has not worked out the way that the Tigers expected it to. But now we have a lot of big-time openings in college football, Mehrob. LSU, the Tigers. You have Florida, another top-tier SEC school. Penn State, a perennial top 10 ranked team. James Franklin is out of a seat there. And then you have some other like historic programs. Virginia Tech now has an open head coach vacancy, right? If you want to stay in the SEC, Arkansas with a head coach vacancy. There are a lot of really, really top tier first rate spots that coaches can go. So my question for you and for the audience and everyone here, Mehrob, is what's the ranking for you? If you were the hot button coach, Mehrob, and you had suitors lining up down the street for you, where would you take your talents to as a head coach in the college football ranks right now? Give me a little bit of a ranking.
I think right now the top two still at this moment have to be LSU 1 and then Clemson 2. I mean, when we're looking at the way that Clemson's been playing, I only have to put them second because of the way that they've started the season. They've started the season pretty cold. They haven't done too well. They're pretty much the Florida State this year of college football in terms of how they were expected to perform and then how they've come out and performed in kind of a un unfashioned way, a way that we didn't expect, pretty much unpredictable way. But I mean, I have to roll with LSU. I know Nussmeier's been getting banged up over there, and at the quarterback position, the O line has not been able to stop a cold. But at the same time, they still have a lot of talent across the board, at least on the defensive side of the ball. I really like this LSU Tigers team. I still have them sitting at number one.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I think the Tigers are the top spot. The LSU Tigers, they are the one that's going to get it filled. You mentioned a couple other places that could potentially not have a coach after this year, and having a job open like LSU, like Penn State, those two, and Florida as well. Those are three of the top 10 jobs in probably the whole nation. Uh, that makes you maybe hold on to your coach a little bit more with how deep of or with how shallow of a talent pool, I guess there you could call it, in the college football coaching landscape. Talked about Florida State, Mike Norvell. He's very much on the hot seat after a hot start, but kind of going down the drain. You have always on the hot seat, at least recently, Dabo Sweeney a little bit with the Clemson Tigers. That's another one that could be fired. But with the way that it's going, I think at least Dabo has another year right now. There's a lot of stuff to take a look at around college football. I think a lot of these high profile teams don't end up firing their coach this year because there just isn't enough to go around. You're gonna have to poach guys anyway, right? You've been hearing talks of poaching Kurt Signetti. That's why he gets an 8-year, $93 million contract extension. Huge contract extension for him. Congratulations. James Franklin's out there. These guys just got fired, so they are out there now. But are you going to steal Eli Drinkwitz from Missouri? Are you going to steal Lane Kiffin from Ole Miss? Are you going to go out and get Dan Lanning from Oregon? A lot of these top tier programs are going to poach head coaches, and that just leads to a whole transition, trickle down kind of system. And it's a mess over in college football, especially with the transfer portal. It's going to be chaos with all of these high profile jobs being open. But that leads me to another one, right? Because the SEC always, it just means more over there, Mehrob. It simply means more in the SEC. But it's not been quite the usual suspects at the top. Texas A&M has been that highest rated team from the SEC. They're currently sitting third in the AP poll. They're undefeated. They just take down LSU in LSU, a night game over there in Death Valley. They dominate that game. Is Texas A&M the team to beat in the SEC right now, or are we going to see it go to an Alabama that's right behind them, to a Georgia that's right behind them, all of these top tier, the usual suspects in the SEC?
I say it's Texas A&M's conference to lose right now, but if I had to pick another team in the SEC that could stand up with them, I'm actually not going to take Alabama or Georgia. I'm going to say Ole Miss right now, the way that they've been playing. I have Ole Miss being pretty much a big dark horse team in the SEC right now. The way that they've been playing on offense, on defense, their only loss by one touchdown loss to Georgia in Georgia. You can't discredit the way that they've been playing right now in any way. And I think they're the best team in the SEC outside of Texas A&M.
No, I could see that. They've got a nice schedule going forward. They're undefeated. They should ride that into a playoff spot as long as they don't mess it up. That's
Of
that
course.
can always happen with college kids. That can always happen with anybody. Any given day, you're on a football field, some wacky stuff can happen. But let's move over to the pros, the NFL. I've got a couple big questions for you, Mehrob, and I think you're going to like this one. We see constantly new guys come up and find their way to superstardom every single year from around all of the NFL teams, around all of the NFL positions. You see big risers, big fallers. One of those guys this year has been Patriots second-year quarterback Drake May. Drake May has been one of the biggest risers that we have seen. He's in legit MVP conversations right now. He has turned this franchise around. Granted, I will say against a pretty easy schedule, one of the easier ones in football, but you can only play who's on your schedule, right? So you're not going to get knocked for that in my book at all. My question for you, we all did a top quarterback
I
rankings
know what you're gonna say.
when it came to the NFL season here. Drake May has been playing out of his mind. Is he a top 10 quarterback in the NFL?
Right now, yes, absolutely. He's undoubtedly a top 10 quarterback right now in the NFL, the way that the Patriots have been playing. And I think he deserves those flowers right now. But the other thing I was gonna say, Jeremy, remember when I told you that the Patriots were gonna win 10 games and you called me crazy
I
and
do.
I said, no, I have the tapes here on our YouTube page here at the Triple Threat Show. And I said, come back to these in December. They have 6 wins right now, and they've only played 8 games. Like, they're not even halfway through the season yet. They, Granted, they're one off. They're pretty much there, but they're not even there yet, and they're already past. They're at 6 wins right now. This is a team that is cruising. That could hit 11, 12 wins right now, and a team that's trying to compete for the number one spot in the AFC. Yes, it's crazy to say, but it's true, and it's all based on the way that defense has been playing. But at the same time, that offense can't be discredited the way that it's been playing. I think the offense was the biggest Achilles heel, the biggest question mark on this team to begin with, because we knew Mike Vrabel was going to coach at a very high level, especially a defensive minded coach in his own right. But the way that Drake May has been playing offensively, the way that Kayshon Boutte has been playing, the way that Stephon Diggs has been able to lead that wide receiver core across the board. I mean, Drake May is playing as like one of the most accurate quarterbacks in NFL history right now through 8 games. Yes, I know it's only 8 games, and I know it's a little bit. I'm talking a little bit crazy right now, but just look at the numbers. He has like a 90%, 80%, 85 to 90% completion rate. I don't know exactly what it is after this week, but I know last week it was at 92%. You can't. Their run game isn't anything too crazy to sneeze at. They only have Ramondre Stevenson and Travion Henderson, two guys that I would say they're not Saquon Barkley or Jahmyr Gibbs. Um, they don't have a Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase in their wide receiver room. They have a lot of younger players. They have a seasoned veteran in Stephon Diggs. I mean, they just have they have an incredible defense as well. So when you look at this team top down, this is a team that can compete not only for an AFC spot, but possibly for at least in the regular season. Yes, their schedule favors them, but for a spot, the number one spot in the AFC when it's all said and done, come playoff time.
Yeah, why not? There's absolutely a chance there with the way that they've been playing football, with the way that their schedule lines up. They could win that division. I know they have the Bills, and that makes things tough. But right now, they've got the tiebreaker head to head against the Bills, and they won on the road, which is huge. That makes it all the easier to win a second time around when you've got the home fans supporting you. You said he's easily top 10, Mehrob. Does that mean he's entered top 5 discussions yet?
Top five is when it gets a little bit dicey, but I'm ready to go through our top five quarterbacks if you want right now, Jeremy.
I mean,
You want to
I
top
don't think
five?
he's top 5. I think he's top 10, but I don't think you can really put him much higher than 7.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think top seven is more realistic right now. But he's entering. He's scratching the surface of the top five right now. I think.
I don't know, I need to see a little bit more consistency, and I need to see him do it against a good defense before I really start to crown him that high. But I think a conversation is ready to be had. I mean, the coming out party so far, I mean, the best defense, honestly, that he's probably played this entire season is that Browns defense. And he looked good against the Browns. He did, but it's also the Browns. He had plenty of opportunities to look good against them, despite getting sacked 5 times by Myles Garrett. I can't believe that happened in a loss. But I do need to see him do it against a great defense before I really proclaim anything crazy like top 5 kind of flowers for Drake May. Let's talk about another team that I just am not so sure about. What is this Dallas Cowboys squad, Mehrob? This is a Dallas Cowboys squad that has MVP level quarterback play going on right now from Dak Prescott. MVP level quarterback play from Dak Prescott right now. He gets CeeDee Lamb back, and then all of a sudden, I mean, we already knew this about the defense. They let Bo Nix go wild on them. They let Bo Nix go wild on them. And look, that might be crazy because I am a big Bo Nix hater, and maybe everybody should go crazy on them. They let Russell Wilson go crazy on them. Maybe that's a better thing to point out here. This Cowboys defense is atrocious. And you know what I think is even funnier, Mehrob? They're rumored to be trying to pursue an edge rusher, like a Max Crosby, an elite edge rusher that could really set the tone for them. It'd be great if they had one of those. They'd probably win a couple more games right now, at least two on their schedule. I'd give them two more wins than what they have at the current moment. But what is up with this Cowboys team? Is this a good team? Can this team sneak into the playoffs? It's a tough NFC. Currently, the Cowboys, 8 weeks into the season, don't quite have that 500 record. They're sitting at 3-4-1 with that tie there. Can they sneak in? That tie is going to help them a lot with tiebreakers because they got half a game there. Looking at the rest of their schedule, Mehrob, Cardinals at home, they always lose. The Cardinals always beat them when they're in Jerry World. By the Raiders, the Eagles, the Chiefs, the Lions, the Vikings, the Chargers, the Commanders, and then the Giants to end the season. Sitting at 3-4-1, do they have a shot at making the playoffs right now?
I think they're. I personally don't, and I think you touched on it a little bit. I think the NFC conference is just that loaded the way it's been played. The you only have to look as far as the NFC North and the NFC West to see how loaded this conference is. There's only three wild card spots available, and just right off the bat, you have the Lions, the Rams, and the Niners, and two teams out of the NFC West and one team in the NFC North, all competing for that spot. And that doesn't even include you don't even get to the Cowboys when you talk about that conversation. You don't even talk about the Bears. You don't talk about the 4-4 Panthers right now. You only talk about those five teams that I just laid out there for you before you even get to the Cowboys, right? As of right now. This is a Cowboys team that really needed to get a win against the Broncos. This is a Broncos team. Yes, Bo Nix hasn't been playing the best, but at the same time, this is a Bo Nix. This is a Bo Nix that's rattled off five straight wins for this Broncos team. And before you get on Bo Nix, this is a guy that also just came back from uh what? It was 26-8 or 33-8 last week when he came back in the fourth quarter and went off for 33 points offensively. He didn't do it by himself, but and he had some help from Jackson Dart. Sorry, Jeremy, but at the same time, you got to give the Broncos credit where credit is due. They've been playing phenomenal football across the board. So the Broncos have been playing really good, but at the same time, this is a Cowboys team that really needed to get a win this week. I still think they can be competitive, especially the next two games. I expect them to win the next two games against the Cardinals, against the Raiders. But then you get the Eagles, Chiefs, Lions, Vikings, Chargers, Commanders all in a row right there. So they're going to need to find a way to get some wins during that stretch. If they can do that, I think they can crawl back into the playoff conversation, possibly make it interesting because of that tie. But at the same time, and I don't want to do it because I think I think this quarterback he's still a good quarterback. He's an MVP level quarterback. But at some point you have to look at Dak Prescott and say, this is a make or break year for you, dude. You have to play at a high level. You have to be able to go out there and get your team some wins.
He absolutely is playing at a high level right now. You can't say with a straight face that Dak Prescott is in any way a part of why they're losing these games.
No. And I think it's the defensive fault. It's the defense's fault. But at the same time, it's just hard not to look at the quarterback sometimes against the Panthers, against the Bears. There's just some games that you just look back on and you say, you got to play better offensively. You have to be able to move the ball better offensively, and at the same time, the defense can't be excused either. But I don't know. This is just a weird Cowboys team. Everywhere you put it, I don't want to blame Dak Prescott is what I'm saying, but Dak Prescott seems to get a brunt of the fault here every single time.
Yeah, how many points per game do you think the Cowboys give up right now?
I don't want to know the number. Probably somewhere around 28, 29.
Yeah, it's 31. It's 31. They're
Yeah.
also scoring 31 points per game this season, which is insane, right? Averaging 31 points per game is amazing. Um, it's just bad. It's just bad with that defense. You can't expect Dak to do much more. And I know that's what you were saying, but I just don't know what this Cowboys team is going to be. You need a defense to be any kind of successful in the NFL, and we are seeing that, especially at the uber competitive level. I got two more questions for you. I want to start off with an MVP race. We don't know what's going on in the MVP race right now. It has been nobody's game to win. It seems like Lamar Jackson dealing with injury. Baker Mayfield had a really bad game on Monday night that took a lot of steam away from him. Daniel Jones in the MVP discussion. I don't know what
Yeah.
he's done. Patrick Mahomes absolutely in the MVP discussion here. He's probably my favorite right now. But we need to show some love to non-quarterbacks. And Jonathan Taylor is having one of the most insane seasons in NFL running back history. We just saw Saquon Barkley go for 2,000, break Terrell Davis's all-time rushing record for including postseason and the regular season. He just had a magical year. They didn't win. He didn't win the MVP last year. That's fine. He had a lot of great quarterback performances. But this year, there's not a real quarterback that separated himself from the pack. Jonathan Taylor has 4 games this year with 3+ touchdowns, 13 touchdowns already on the season. He is the reason that offense goes. Daniel Jones is not the reason the Colts are 6-1. It is Jonathan Taylor. I think he should be firmly in the MVP discussion, but he's not a quarterback. What are his odds? Should he be in the MVP discussion?
He absolutely should. Him, and if it wasn't for his injury, I think Puka Nacua would be in this conversation, but due to his injury, I don't think he can be anymore. But Jonathan Taylor, I've said from the beginning, since like week 3, week 2, week 3, I've said Jonathan Taylor deserves to be in this conversation. The way that he's been playing, he had 4 touchdowns this past week. He had 3 rushing touchdowns and a receiving touchdown. He's a monster. He's an absolute monster. He's the engine for the Indianapolis Colts team. He's the reason why Daniel Jones. He's not. Daniel Jones is playing as a good game manager right now and doing well and being safe with the ball, throwing the ball when he does. But the way that Jonathan Taylor is running the ball, I would be deathly afraid if I was any defense playing against him because I would just stack the line and when you look at Daniel Jones, all he has to do is every once in a while just float it over the top of the defense, and you got a 20-yard chunk play. That's what seems to happen over here with this Indianapolis Colts team. And it works. Don't get me wrong. It's a recipe for success. And like I said, you got to it all goes back to the way Jonathan Taylor has been playing. His ability, and he's kind of turned his career around from the injuries the last few years, and hopefully it doesn't happen again. Hopefully it doesn't happen again and spoil the season that he's having. But 13 touchdowns through 8 games is nothing to sneeze at, and
Nuts.
he's going to need to continue to play at a high level to continue to get into that MVP conversation. I think I have him like third or fourth right now. Mahomes would still be my number one, but he's sitting around the Drake May level right now, I'd say.
Yeah, for sure. You can definitely make the argument for him. Last thing I've got for you, and this is my little victory lap. We got yours with Drake May here, but this one I feel pretty good about. And you know what? Maybe it's still too early for me to feel good about this one. But after last week, I feel even more confident that the Ravens are going to win the AFC North. I am ready to lock that in. They are going to win the AFC North. Book it. Lamar Jackson coming back. The Steelers just don't have the juice. You can't look at that Steelers team and say that they've got the juice to hold on to this lead in the division. That was a huge win for the Ravens against the Bears, a Bears team that had won 4 straight games, had all the momentum heading into that game. No Lamar Jackson for the Ravens either, and they find a way to get out of there. Now the rest of that schedule, pretty cupcakey. They still have to play Green Bay, but you know what Lamar Jackson does to NFC teams. He just simply doesn't lose to them unless it's the New York Giants, of course, because of course he's going to lose to the Giants. But Lamar Jackson is coming back. This is a Ravens team that's going to win the North. I just don't think the rest of that division has the firepower to hold them back. The defense playing a lot better with some of their acquisitions and getting a couple guys back from the from the injury report. I think this is a huge win for the Ravens, and I think they're a lock to win that division again.
I think the Ravens can get back into the conversation, especially over the next few weeks. They get to play the Dolphins, Vikings, Browns, Jets. Over the next few weeks, they will find a way to get back into the conversation as long as the rest of AFC North gets held off. And when I say that, I mean the Steelers, really. But, and that's where the buck comes in. I think they need to win. It's going to depend on how they play in their divisional matchups. They have to play the Bengals twice. They still have to play the Bengals twice. They still have to play the Steelers twice. Like I said, they have to go on the road in Cleveland in a couple weeks. And then they get the Patriots. They got to go on the road to Green Bay. I think there are still some games that the Ravens still have to look out for, and we'll learn a lot about them in the next couple weeks. I'm not ready to say they're going to win the North yet because I still think it's wide open. And if the Bengals had won that game, I still would be sitting here and saying the Bengals will win the North. I just can't say that because they lost to the Jets. But I'm not counting them out of it yet.
Yeah, lost to the Jets. Brutal.
Give me the Bengals, though. Still, after everything, give me the Bengals to win the North.
All right. I see. You had any big takeaways from a weekend that was of football so far?
From the weekend that was, my friend, all I can really say, I know I just touched on it. The Jets beating the Bengals was unbelievable. Nobody saw that coming, not even me. And the only other takeaway I really have is shout out to the Texans beating a really good 49ers team, especially the way that they lost to the Seahawks on Monday Night Football, getting trampled, showing up the next week and just pretty much dominating that Niners game in every way that they could. Just making sure they could go out there. CJ Stroud going for 300 yards and 2 touchdowns, just playing the best that he can. And the Texans not only getting a big win for themselves, but the Niners with a crucial loss to make it a little bit closer in that NFC West, to make the NFC West a little bit more interesting.
Yeah. No, definitely. It should be a good finish to the NFL season, but let's get over to the world of college football. The top 25, it is Tuesday. You are listening to the Triple Threat Show. You can find us everywhere around the internet, but it's time to get into our Tuesday tradition, Mehrob. Let's start off with the group of 5. A little update for you. What's going on in the group of 5? There are 1 playoff spot open for the group of 5. We need to see who's there. In my mind, there's only 9 teams that have a shot at that, and a lot of them come from that American. You're talking Memphis, you're talking USF, South Florida, you're talking Tulane, you're talking North Texas, you're talking Navy. Those are the big contenders. Memphis, USF at the top. We just saw Memphis take down South Florida in a thrilling game, a huge comeback for the Tigers there. James Madison hanging around there. They're that kind of dark horse team if the American continues to cannibalize itself. We've seen South Florida destroy North Texas. We've seen Memphis beat South Florida. Tulane, they're just kind of hanging around. They've got a couple matchups coming up soon. These are going to be huge ones, huge playoff implications. But let's take a look over at the top 25. Let's start off at number 25, where James Madison holds on to their spot. They were idle last week. I think the offensive explosion that we saw against Old Dominion, if they can continue to play like that with the defense, by the way, the only defense in all of college football to not give up more than 300 yards in a single game this season. That defense is no joke. elite. They're going to make scoring difficult. It's just a question of whether or not their offense will show up, and we saw it show up last time out against a solid Old Dominion team. South Florida down 7 spots from where they were after a loss to Memphis. They're still in it. I think this is a really good team. They've taken care of business against a bunch of ranked opponents, and their resume is still really good, so I'm going to keep them ranked. Memphis takes care of business against South Florida. They go to a spot ahead of them. That's just how it works. We have 3 group of 5 schools at the bottom of our top 25, and that might be blasphemous for some people out there. Why isn't Washington in there? Why isn't Pitt in there? Why isn't USC in there? Why isn't Nebraska in there? I just don't think that they're that level of team. I'm taking the group of 5 over a couple of those good Power 4 teams that just aren't quite ready to go. Michigan at number 22. They're up 2 spots after a win over their rival Michigan State, a game that they thoroughly dominated, 31-20. That score a little closer than what it was actually like if you were watching that game. Oklahoma down 6 spots after another tough loss, 26-34 against the 8th ranked Ole Miss Rebels. Oklahoma still, I think John Mateer not 100% healthy. They got a little bit going from the run game, which is huge. I'm not going to punish them too much for this loss to Oklahoma, honestly, but for this loss to Ole Miss. But Oklahoma, if they lose one more, probably out of contention. Texas up 2 spots. They get that head-to-head rivalry bonus over Oklahoma. They're up to number 20. Arch Manning, concussion protocol, something to watch, but they keep winning games. A wild comeback for them. Overtime 45-38 win over Mississippi State. Down 17 points in the fourth quarter. It doesn't matter. Texas will come back, find a way to win these games. Missouri, another tough loss to another top 10 opponent, this time to Vanderbilt. 17-10, a loss for the Tigers. They're down 5 spots, and here at number 19 for me. Again, they've lost to good teams. I think this is a really solid Missouri squad. They're probably not going to make the playoffs, but they have fought really hard, and even in the games they've lost to Vanderbilt, to Alabama, these are really, really good teams, and I'm not going to punish them too much for it. Tennessee up to number 18. They're up 2 spots. A dominating victory over Kentucky, 56-34. I'm still concerned about that defense. There's no doubt about that. That defense is incredibly concerning, but the offense is something that there's no reason to think this Tennessee team couldn't continue to win football games like this one. Louisville continues to climb. They're up 2 more spots. A big win, up by 14 points over Boston College. That one they needed to win. They should have won. They won by a lot. Louisville and the Cardinals continue to climb, and they're a dark horse in the ACC. The ACC wide open right now. Cincinnati, likewise, also up 2 spots. A really impressive 41-10 win over the Baylor Bears. The Bears are kind of one of those teams that I've had hovering around the top 25, sitting near like 30-40 range. They're a very good team, and it's a very solid win. Cincinnati continues to find a way to get it done. Speaking of finding a way to get it done, number 15, the Virginia Cavaliers. It for sure has not been pretty, but the Hoos continue to find ways to win games. They continue to go out there. They win by 1 point, a game that probably should have gone to overtime. Instead, Bill Belichick decides to go for 2, and the try gets stopped at the literal 1-inch line. That was as close as you can get to a loss as possible against a kind of sorry UNC team. I'm taking Virginia. They still get a win, but not super impressive. Only up 1 spot. Utah back into the top 15, settles at number 14. How about utter domination? 53-7, a victory over Colorado. There are only 2 blemishes this year come against top 10 caliber teams in BYU and Texas Tech. These are 2 teams that I think, I hate to say quality loss, but these are quality losses. I'm not going to punish Utah too much. Georgia Tech down a spot to number 13. They dominate against Steve Angeli and the Syracuse Orange. They go out there, get it done. They were losing for a little bit, but I mean, that game really was never in doubt. At number Number 12, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish are here. They were coming off of a bye this week. They still have those 2 losses, so I don't want to put them too high up, but they're still a very good team. Their 2 losses, very, very understandable. BYU, nearly the top 10. I know a lot of people have them in the top 10. I've got them sitting here at number 11. They're up 2 spots. They just continue to face test after test. They were losing for a little while to Iowa State early in that game. They come all the way back. They win that game really comfortably. It's been so impressive to watch BYU work this season, take down Utah. Big test for them. They beat an Arizona team that I thought was kind of a little underrated. Again, kind of sitting in that 30 to 40 kind of range when we're talking about overall seasons. They were having a really good year, but BYU continues to stack victories. I just don't think it's quite enough to crack the top 10 because entering the top 10, Mehrob, Texas Tech. Excuse me. Texas Tech, the Red Raiders, no more tortilla toss for them, but they're still in the top 10. The Texas Tech Red Raiders continue to find ways to win football games. 42-0 against the Sooners. That game was never in doubt. It should never have been in doubt. They're getting their starting quarterback back soon, and that is huge for them. The Vanderbilt Commodores up another spot after a top 25 victory. They're here in the top 10 again. Diego Pavia for Heisman? Diego Pavia? Potentially something to keep an eye on over there. Vanderbilt continues to win games. This is a real team. You can keep talking about it's Vanderbilt, but this is a real Vanderbilt squad, and they're dangerous. They're going to be a playoff team. Ole Miss to number 8 with a win over Oklahoma, 34-26. A good Oklahoma team. I think a team that I'd like to see Ole Miss beat by more because of the situation with injuries to John Mateer. But Ole Miss gets the job done. It hasn't looked comfortable all season long, but they keep winning games. And that, at the end of the day, is all that matters. Miami down a spot to number 7 after a 42-7 shellacking of the Stanford Cardinals. A bad Stanford team, but you got to win those games when you're playing the teams on your schedule, and they put up quite a performance. But Oregon jumps ahead of them. They're up to number 6 on our top 25. Oregon with a big win against a solid Wisconsin team. Dan Lanning's got the boys going. They've bounced back from a loss against Indiana, and if they keep playing like this, they can find their way back into the top 5, no issue. Speaking of the top 5, though, Mehrob, it's still the same. No change in the top 5. Ohio State and Georgia, both idle. They keep their spots at 1 and 5, respectively. Alabama still at number 24, get a big win over a frisky South Carolina team. They win, and they continue to prove that they're near the class of the SEC. Same thing with Texas A&M. How about a dominant 24-point victory? Get Brian Kelly fired. That is about as dominant as a victory as you can possibly have. Texas A&M sticks at number 3. Indiana, with a game that I thought could have been close, wins by 50 points against UCLA. 50. They hold them to 6 points for an offense that's been averaging about 30 or more points every single game since they made that offensive coordinator switch. The Indiana Hoosiers are, for real, arguably the best team in the nation. And at 1 again, it's still Ohio State. Julian Sayin deserves a lot of respect. He isn't getting it because the numbers aren't jumping off the page, but he's doing everything they need him to, and Ohio State's still the best team in the country, looking to run it back one more time and win another national championship. I'm going to run through my top 10 real quick one more time. At number 10, we have Texas Tech, Vanderbilt at number 9, Ole Miss at number 8, Miami at number 7, Oregon at number 6, Georgia number 5, Alabama 4, Texas A&M 3, Indiana 2, and Ohio State still at number 1. Mehrob, what are your top 5 looking like for the college football as we get a little bit further than halfway through the season?
My personal top 5 is actually exactly the same as yours is. I have no complaints. I think it is perfect the way it is. That top 5 is unbelievable. And it's also kind of it's hard to argue against it. I think every one of those top 5 teams is deserving, and each one of those teams Alabama beat Georgia. That's why they're ahead. Texas A&M is the number one in the SEC. That's why they're ahead. And then you look at Ohio State. They haven't lost yet. They're the best team in college football, and they're playing at an incredibly high level. So I think that top five is legit. I think it's perfect, and there's nothing else to really say. My only question, the only thing, the last thing I want to say about college football, because we didn't talk about it earlier, is give me your thoughts, Jeremy, on the situation with Steve Sarkisian. Is there a way that he gets fired from Texas? Is there a way that he leaves Texas? Because there has been some rumors about that going around. Give me your thoughts on that really quick.
He's not getting fired. They're having a good season. That offense just isn't quite good enough. Sark is not going anywhere, at least by Texas's decision. There's no reason to leave Texas. That is one of the best jobs in all of college football. I don't think it gets better than that. He is arguably is the best job in college football. They've got all the donors. They've got all the funding. They have the big name brand. They're in the big conference. They've got everything they need. Sark isn't going anywhere. Texas would be stupid to fire him right now. But Mehrob, it's been all fun and games. We did not talk about this last week when it came out. I was waiting to see what more was going to come out. But let's talk a little NBA. It's been a week. The season
It has been a week.
underway. And it has been a really exciting week of basketball. We have seen a lot of classics, including the opening game going to double overtime, Rockets versus Thunder. The Thunder had another double overtime game right after that. They continue to find ways to win. Shea playing great basketball. Luka playing amazing. Jokic could go 82 for 82 with triple doubles. He is ridiculous. But the big story around the NBA, Mehrob, has nothing to do with what's going on the court. It's what's going on off of it. The FBI has raided the NBA, and Adam Silver is getting questions. A gambling probe, a gambling investigation found that Portland Trailblazers head coach Chauncey Billups was involved in illegal gambling and illegal poker ring. The mafia had ties to all of this. Him and Terry Rozier, point guard for the Miami Heat, both arrested, the only two active NBA people to be taken as a part of this investigation. But there were also other former players. Again, the mafia is involved in this. The FBI is involved in this. So it is a big deal. But Mehrob, talk to me a little bit about the fallout here from one of the biggest news breaks in sports in a long, long time.
Yeah, I don't blame you for waiting a little bit. I wanted to wait a little bit to hear about more of what actually played out in this situation. And even now I still don't. All I really know is there are two separate cases in this debacle of what's going on in what the FBI has come up with and has pretty much digged up on the NBA here. Chauncey Bill, there's a counterfeit NBA, or was it not counterfeit, but rigged poker game that Chauncey Billups is involved in, and there's illegal betting in terms of player bets going on here as well, and they're on two separate cases. On the poker side, to start, Chauncey Billups pretty much hosted a poker game at his house. There were reports that there were transparent, what was it, transparent cards. There was infrared reading or whatnot. I don't know exactly what the details are because it's a really messy case, but I know that is part of it in terms of Chauncey Billups, and there's a bunch of players involved. Paul Pierce was involved with that. There's a bunch of other players. The Lakers are linked to it as well. And like I said, there's the other side with Terry Rozier and the illegal player betting. In terms of players, Terry Rozier himself betting on himself in certain manners. Um, and then that's the other part of it. LeBron pretty much talking to his agent before a game that he said he was going to be out before, and what was it? Just help me out here, Jeremy. What was the report on that one? Do you know what I'm talking about here? His agent pretty much
Yeah,
said that
former
LeBron was going to
teammate
be
for
out before the
LeBron,
game.
I believe Damon Jones, uh,
Thank you.
was caught up in this probe. He was close to LeBron, and rumors are that he knew that LeBron was going to be out for certain games and took his team to lose or took LeBron's unders and stuff like that to beat the books a little bit. Obviously, that's illegal. Can't do that. So that's that part over there. That's why LeBron's being dragged into this a little bit. He's not super a part of it, but the Lakers are. They're involved in it a little bit. There were 4 or 5 teams that were singled out in this investigation. But I want to circle back to the Trailblazers real quick because I think this affects them the most as far as just purely on the court kind of situations. You lose your head coach. You lose your head coach, a team that was hot down the stretch last season, made a real run for that 10 seed after in the second half. They were one of the best teams in the NBA in the second half. You have a lot of that team returning. It's a young core. You have Drew Holiday joining the fray, a nice veteran that they kept, and he is going to play good minutes for them. And now they get derailed. Their season immediately off to maybe the worst start it can. You lose your head coach. How are they going to react to this? We've seen them play a couple games since, but how is this going to affect their season overall?
I mean, as of right now, the Portland Trailblazers are sitting at 2-2. They just get a big win over the Lakers, and I think they've started the season pretty decently. But at the same time, Chauncey Billups was pretty much the heart, not the heart and soul of this team, but he pretty much set the tone for this team when he entered the building. He brought about an energy of effort, continued playing at a high level, and he tried to start mentoring some of the young players in Scoot Henderson and Donovan Cliggan. When you look across the board, they still have some good talent, but specifically when I'm looking at this Trailblazers squad, I don't think they have enough to compete with the rest of the Western Conference. But this was a team that could still be interesting. They finished the season decently last year. They were making some noise of being one of the better second half of the year teams last year, and we thought they could continue to build on that with some of their young talent, and they've done that. But without Chauncey Billups, I don't know if they can get it done. I don't know if this is enough of a. I don't think this team has enough veteran experience. I know they bring in Drew Holiday, but there's a lot of there's a lot of rookies in this team, a lot of sophomore players on this team that still need to be developed in the right manner. Without a player's type of coach to do that, I don't know if the Trailblazers can be a. I don't think the Trailblazers can reach the potential that they could have, but we'll see. We'll just have to wait and see. I just don't think I think you're right there with me when I say the Trailblazers are just not good enough to hang with the creme de la creme of the Western Conference.
Yeah, not good enough to hang with the big boys at the top, but definitely good enough to compete for a play-in spot in the West this year if everything had gone right. You're right, sitting at 500 right now. There were 6 teams total, including the Trailblazers, that were singled out in this investigation, though. The Miami Heat, obviously, with Terry Rozier, is included in this. As well as when he was on the Charlotte Hornets. That's also included. The Lakers, LeBron James, part of that connection. Damon Jones, also part of that connection. The Raptors, Jonte Porter, and that whole situation also connected to this a little bit here. And then the Orlando Magic, which again ties back to the Cleveland Cavaliers with Damon Jones with an April 6, 2023 game with the Magic providing insider information that they would be resting their starters. These are the 6 teams that got singled out. And again, like I said, I think the one that got affected the most is the Trailblazers, because losing Terry Rozier at this point in 2025, that's nothing, right? If we're just talking purely on the court stuff. But I think a bigger discussion for this overall is just how is the NBA going to respond to this? Because integrity is so important when it comes to live sports, and the line is consistently getting more blurred and more blurred. We've had this discussion before, I believe, about how it's dangerous. It's a slippery slope for how interconnected gambling and sports are becoming. And it's not, again, I won't say it's necessarily a bad thing to have legalized gambling. And I'm not going to go on a whole tirade against gambling companies. I'm not, because look, it's not the end of the world to have people gamble, but when you're doing live events, you need to make sure that it's not being tampered with. And when money gets involved, when big money gets involved, like it so often can in gambling, it just gets harder and harder to get that integrity. There needs to be things in place, and you're already starting to see stuff falter a little bit, right? There's plenty of NFL players that have been booked for betting. There needs to be harsh, punishments for this. Baseball, there have been plenty of players just this last season that got taken out of the league entirely for gambling, right? The NBA needs to have a strong response to this because they're the league that's been dinged the most by this. Now a huge FBI raid on top of everything. Adam Silver needs to have a strong response. I don't think anything less than like banned for life. That has to be the standard for these kind of guys, for these kind of situations. You can't be gambling on the NBA. You can't be gambling on games. And this also goes to a wider discussion. College athletes are going to be allowed to bet on sports now. That's something that just passed from the NCAA, which again, that just seems a little dangerous. Just keep them off of the sports app in general.
Yeah, exactly. And I agree with you. I think there's reports, I'm just looking at it now, continue to dig a little bit more. It's saying that the NBA wants to try and block some of these ads from kids, like just put some parental blocks on some of these gambling ads so kids don't see them. But when you're looking at college kids right now, especially with how I think this is a bigger part of the conversation, and this is going to continue to widen it a little bit. I'll only touch on it a little bit. I think the fact that things are getting so expensive right now too is what's pushing these kids to start looking at other ways of making money. And yes, gambling can be in some ways. This is a power that they can control. They can control in a way how they perform, and um they can make it unoriginal. They can try and control the game in a way. I won't go too deep into that side of things, but I agree with you. I think having college kids even being able to look at gambling books on their own stats is just going to continue to destroy the integrity of the game. The game was designed to be you just show up, you play the game, whatever sport you play, you perform at a high level, you do your best, you either win or you lose, and you go home. That's it. And you go home based on the and you go home with a percentage of the revenue that you generate. That's generally what the game of sports is, especially for these players. So when you include these gambling, especially for younger athletes, it just destroys the integrity of the game in every way, shape, or form. I don't like it at all. And I mean, the last thing I want to say, and I'm going to kind of bring it back over to Terry Rozier. What makes this look so bad on the NBA is the fact that they had no idea that the FBI was planning to do any of this when they arrested Terry Rozier. They had no idea that the FBI was conducting an investigation. And on top of that, the NBA had its own investigation and cleared Terry Rozier. So months before. So after all of that, the FBI comes out with all of these probes, arrests Rozier, arrests Billups, and a bunch of other players, former players, current players, whatnot. And it was all after the NBA has done its own investigation. So it's bad on every front right now. It really is bad on every front.
Baseball continues to be just amazing. This postseason has been amazing. Another marathon of a game. In fact, the longest World Series game in the history of baseball. Baseball's been going on a long time. 18 innings. The Dodgers take care of the Toronto Blue Jays. Clayton Kershaw gets a victory in this one, technically. He goes out there, gets the last out of the game for the Dodgers. bases loaded jam, take care of business. They dominate there. A couple other heroes from the night. Freddie Freeman, obviously, with that walk-off home run blast. We all stayed up to watch it. I know everybody did, of course. But long game. It was a good one. Again, the longest game ever. The Dodgers take a 2-1 series lead. They've got two more games in LA. Is this series going to make it back to Toronto?
I personally think so, but I don't know at this point. I think the Blue Jays need to win one of the next three games. I think they will. And I think this is a crazy take. I think they're going to win game 4 and then it's going to be up to how game 5 ends up going. If this ends back in Toronto, well, but at the end of the day, I think this Dodgers team is just loaded. And I know you want to talk about this a little bit, so I'll give the stage to you. Just quickly, Clayton Kershaw playing at a really high level. If that's the last that we see of Clayton Kershaw in his career, and he decides to hang up the boots after this game or after this season, it was a phenomenal performance from the way that he played. But really quickly, I want to give the stage to you because give me your thoughts on Shohei Ohtani, Jeremy. How has he been looking? Is he the best player of all time? Because he sure looks like it right now, the way he's been pitching, hitting the ball in every which way as a baseball player.
Oh, you're damn right. He's the best player of all time. Shohei Ohtani, 4 for 4 last night, 3 runs, 2 home runs, hitting .283 in these playoffs. He has reached base 9 times in this game. That ties an MLB record. In his last couple of games, he has reached base every single time. In fact, he is 8 for 8, all extra base hits for Shohei Ohtani. He has been just otherworldly. On top of that, he has, of course, his gem of a game against the Brewers. 6 innings, no runs, 3 hits, 10 strikeouts. Absolute domination from him. He's a special player, a unicorn, and every time you can watch him, go and do it. There's a reason that he got walked 5 straight times in the World Series in an 18-inning game. There's a reason, because he is just that special. Shohei Ohtani, the GOAT over here. Real quick, shout out to Will Klein, reliever for the Dodgers. 4 innings, 1-hit baseball to close out the game. He was huge for them. He had never gone more than 2 innings in his career. He goes 4 innings, heroic effort for him. The Dodgers pull up 6-5. They get a 2-1 series lead. 2 more games in LA. The Blue Jays, I think this was the one that they had to win. I'm a little concerned. I don't know if this one is coming back. Shohei Ohtani scheduled to pitch tonight against Shane Bieber. Last time we saw Shane Bieber out there on the mound, the Blue Jays got a big win, a Game 7 victory for them. Shohei Ohtani, of course, we just talked about what he did last time out on the mound. This should be a really fun game. I just don't think the Dodgers lose right now. They're playing too good. There's nothing that the Blue Jays can do. A bad base running mistake in this one. The Blue Jays probably should have won this game. Weird call by the umpire. A late call leads to Bo Bichette being stuck in between in no man's land on the base paths, getting tagged out when he would have been brought around to score later that inning with everything that happened. First and third, after he got tagged out, he would have scored. That is the game. That's the run that could have stopped this game from going a whole extra game of time, 9 extra innings. But those are the kind of mistakes you can't be making in the World Series, even if it was completely the umpire's fault for making a late bad strike call on what was supposed to be ball 4. It sucks. But Mehrob, there was not just baseball, not just football, not just hockey. Actually, the sports equinox was yesterday, so shout out the sports equinox. Every single team played yesterday, but there was also a big fight this weekend, and usually we like to come on here and break down the big fights, but this one was a little different than a lot of these other ones, Mehrob. This one didn't really have an ending. Tom Aspinall gets poked in the eye there. He can't fight anymore, obviously, and they declare a no contest. Talk to me a little bit about how that happens, why they don't declare a victor, and what the next step is for a potential rematch with these two behemoths in the game.
Yeah, I mean, this was a massive fight. This not only was this a big fight in the world of the UFC right now, but this had major implications across the board. This was Tom Aspinall's first fight as the undisputed heavyweight champion of the UFC right now. After John Jones got stripped of his title, this was Tom Aspinall's first opportunity, his first showing against another opponent, against a legit opponent, as the champion, as the undisputed champ. Let me just put this in perspective. This fight didn't even finish a full round, but in those 4.5 minutes, Cyril Gahn had more total strikes, more significant strikes, and Tom Aspinall was 0 for 1 on takedowns. Tom Aspinall was getting. I'm not saying that Tom Aspinall should have lost this fight or was going to lose this fight, but Cyril Gahn fought his best. Tom Aspinall looked like this was going to be his toughest fight, or that was his toughest first round that he's seen in his time in the UFC. Cyril Gahn looked at look at his peak shape. Tom Aspinall was getting hit. He was getting battered. He was getting bloodied, and in the 4.5 minute mark, with 30 seconds left to go in the first round, Tom Aspinall suffers a pretty bad eye poke. Nonetheless, it was a pretty bad eye poke. And both fingers went into his eye and back up, and the fight ended up stopping. Did Tom Aspinall say he couldn't continue? Yes, and it wasn't the referee's decision, and that plays a big role into this. But this was a tough loss for him, and you got to look on both sides. One side, the eye poke was pretty bad, and most fighters could not continue after a poke like that. That was a big reason why this fight was stopped. But on the other side, a lot of people are saying Aspinall was soft. A lot of people are saying Aspinall ducked Cyril Gahn. And the duck himself, John Jones, went out and kind of trolled Tom Aspinall on his Instagram page, adding an eye patch to his profile picture, if you guys saw that. All I'm saying is this was not a good look on Tom Aspinall. And if we're gonna look on how this can continue, Dana White came immediately on in the press conference after the fight and said that this fight could be rescheduled for December, as early as December. Will it be rescheduled for December? I don't know. I can't say that it will be. That is a really tough stretch. And meet 2 months after the fight. This is an organization that schedules fights a month, 2 months in advance usually. And December's right around the corner here, less than almost 2 months away, as October's coming to a close in the next few days. But Cyril Gahn really showed up in a big way in this one, especially putting up after the performance that he had against John Jones. Immediately after that, we haven't seen Cyril Gahn for the last 2 years now, and he shows up in a big fight overseas and takes it to Tom Aspinall the way that he did. I don't know. This is not a good look for Tom Aspinall in his first ever fight as the undisputed champ. And honestly, if there's anybody that wins in this situation, it's John Jones. That's really crazy to say, but it really is John Jones right now.
No, I don't think it's that crazy to say. I think it's funny that he's trolling after he retired to not fight Tom Aspinall, but John Jones also a lot older than he is. The one thing that I'd like to go back to, because like you said, Tom Aspinall is the one that said he couldn't keep going, not the ref. This one didn't make it out of the first round, which it feels like
It was a letdown.
he kind of just he kind of gave up, which is why I've been confused about why it's a no contest. I understand it didn't make it out of the first round, but what's the difference between tapping out and getting knocked out at this point? I know dirty hit, but it wasn't on purpose from what I've seen. It did look like he had intent to poke his eye, but it happened, and sometimes that's just how it goes. That's a loss in my book.
It should be a loss in many books, but at the end of the day, when the referee comes out and stops well, I mean, here's the problem.
That's the
When you
difference.
get poked
Because
in the eye,
if the ref came out and stopped it, it can be a no contest, but the ref didn't stop it.
yeah, but if at the end of the day, it's a champion's advantage, and it's always been like that in the UFC. I think that's a big reason why it was a no contest. But when a fighter gets poked in the eye, that's how it always goes. They get 5 minutes to sit down to just try and figure themselves out, figure out their eye. They get a timeout. They get a 5 minute timeout, and they can take the full 5 minutes. Some people do, but it's not normally how it goes, especially in a championship level fight, especially the way that Tom Aspinall was getting banged up. That's why things like this get dicey. This is why when stuff like this happens, you got to look at you got to look at the fighter that pulls out and say, "What are you doing, man? You can't just give up and keep the title and not expect for critics to come out and backfire on you. You can't expect it. It's just a really bad look on Tom Aspinall. There's a lot of reports saying he considered retirement. There's a lot of reports saying he went immediately to the hospital after the fight and got his eye tested. All of that. But at the end of the day, he gave up. If he hadn't given up and he sat down the full 5 minutes and the referee had looked at, unless the referee was going to look at him and say, continue fighting, I don't I don't know what he would have done. He could have just simply said he could have simply just waited for the referee to call it a no contest. But the fact of the matter is he gave up, and that's a big reason why this is such a big issue.
Yeah, I expect this fight to be rescheduled anyway. I know you said, Dana, looking at potentially December. I think it's going to be a lot later than that. I think we're looking at like 6 months to a year out at this point. But hopefully a little bit sooner than a year. Anything else that you wanted to go over from a wacky weekend in sports before we call it a day, Mehrob?
Thank God the NBA is back. We've already seen some crazy performances, a bunch of 50-point performances.
Austin Reeves, 50 points
Reeves.
last night. Random 50
Yep.
ball for him.
Austin Reeves, Tyrese Maxey has had multiple 40-point games. BJ Edgecombe has been playing at a high level. The NBA is back, and we're all back for it.
That's right. You can find us talking more NBA. We'll get on that tomorrow. We'll talk some more NBA on the court stuff as opposed to off the court stuff. We'll also go over our NFL power rankings, winners and losers from a week 8. Excuse me, 8? Week 8 in the NFL. You can find us everywhere all over the internet. That is on YouTube at Triple Threat Show, Twitch at 3 Threat Show, Instagram at 3 Threat Show _, and on TikTok at the _Triple Threat Show. Find us everywhere you get your podcasts: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Audible, Amazon Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and more. I have been your host, Jeremy Lapidus, joined today by my friend and co-host, Mehrob Fatemi. We'll be back tomorrow morning. Can't wait to see you bright and early. Have a good one.